I am so glad that this beef is happening just because of how entertaining it is. Believe it or not, I don't know Kendrick or Drake personally, so these serious allegations that are being thrown at both of them could be completely true just as much as it could be straight up cap. But that's not what we're here for today. Today, we are here to indulge in this wonderful time we are living in, where two names are going head to head in the ring. Nothing this big in the rap industry has happened since Jay-Z and Nas, so we are witnessing history right now. Personally, I mean, if you couldn't already tell, I find this all to be so entertaining. Like, I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited over the fact that Kendrick Lamar dropped 4 songs in a matter of days simply just to rip Drake apart. But enough yap. Today, I just want to review and rank all the songs that have come out in the recent weeks between these two and dissect them and talk about them. So let's get started. Starting with dead last, we got Tailor-Made Freestyle. I'm only including this because it's kind of canon to this whole Kendrick Drake lore. So, I mean, we'll see some of the bars about it later, but this is just hilarious to me. Like, leave it to Drake to use AI to imitate Tupac and Snoop Dogg with some subpar verses. And then he comes in following that up with, yeah, Unc, that's the truth. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I know for a fact you thought you were cooking in the studio with that one. I bet Snoop Dogg woke up being like, when did I ever record this? Bro's still alive. Like, you could have just asked him to record a verse. Like, what are you doing? You're Drake. Anyways, I mean, its whole purpose acts like a little brother poking the bear, trying to just stir up some controversy because we were all waiting for Kendrick to respond. So, not gonna lie, this low-key, like a L. This is -1 for Drake, but that's all I'm gonna say for this one. I just want to get into the real music, like... Why is she following Dave Free and not Mr. Morale? The Heart Part 6. Being the most recent song to have come out since the start of me working on this video, I do have to say that I respect Drake for doing the best that he can with the cards that he's been dealt with. I mean, just prior to this, Kendrick released 2 absolute monsters of a song back to back, which really put Drake at a disadvantage in my eyes with like every crazy thing that he's being accused of. I like how he's basically just telling Kendrick's fans that they should be grateful that he forced him to crawl out of his little cave and start putting out music again after like the year-long hiatuses he tends to take in between albums. I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, yeah, this isn't certainly like a bad song at all. It's pretty decent. I think Drake did a solid job like taking a step back, but definitely not enough to put him in the lead by a long shot. I mean, the title is so tough, I'm not gonna lie. Like, considering Kendrick's The Heart series and his record of how he's released a new edition right before dropping a new album in the past. So this low-key might refrain him from doing that again, like dropping a song of the same name. And I mean, to add to this one, it just so happens to be the 6th edition, which is being handed to Drake, the 6th God. Like, but there were some egregious and honestly some really horrendous bars thrown into the mix here too by Drake. Like how he made fun of Kendrick getting molested through the use of his Mother I Sober song. And also, if I was effing young girls, I'd promise I'd have been arrested. What are you talking about, bro? That is not hard. I know, like, in his situation, he has to kind of play on the defense right now, but that is just ridiculously corny, bro. And then he follows that up with, I'm too famous for this stuff that you're suggesting, which is just not an excuse at all. This whole thing basically just wants us to believe that the source of information that Kendrick is using, like his mole, is just unreliable. Drake's just asking for receipts, which is normal, but I mean, even if there were true, Drake just has the power to deny it. And that is the unfortunate nature of the industry, in my opinion. Like, both of these guys are so popular. Everything Kendrick is saying could be true, and Drake is just such a big name that he has the power to sweep it all under the rug. But also vice versa. Kendrick could just straight up be lying, and he has the power to make people believe what he's saying. And with what he's saying, we'll get to that later in the video, but I mean, just something to keep in mind. But anyways, back to the song, The Heart Part 6. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty sly of him to use Dave Free against Kendrick, because the cover is one of his comments posting like some hearts under Kendrick's fiance's post, which stems from his accusations that she cheated on Drake with Dave. But I mean, overall, solid track. Some ups and downs, but I mean, nothing near the quality that Kendrick's been putting out, so +0 for Drake here. Moving on to the next song on the list, we got... People go to bed, conspiracies about cash, dog, that's not even the leak. 616 in LA is a decent cut from Kendrick. Sonically, it's pretty cool. I think this song thrives lyrically. I mean, like most Kendrick songs do. But I think that this was just purposely leaked to just to bait Drake into dropping something so he could return the favor immediately right after. Here, he mentions that he has a spy on the inside, double-crossing Drake just to feed him information, and introduces the idea that he has people working for him inside OVO. And then even Jack Antonoff, someone who you might recognize as Taylor Swift's producer and good friend, helped co-produce and co-write this song, which could also be a stab at Drake's Tailor-Made Freestyle song. But, I mean, overall, pretty cool. I don't give this one much attention, if I'm being honest, because it's just a leak, but... So +0 for Kendrick, but moving on to the next one we got...
I could never be nobody #1 fan. Your first
Pushups, which was made in response to metroboomin and Futures Like That. I mean, this did play a pretty good role in reception. People liked it. It wasn't too crazy or anything in terms of dissing Kendrick because it was kind of dedicated to a lot of different people that are against him, like the aforementioned Metro and Future. We got Rick Ross, The Weeknd, and so many other ops. This song serves as like a shotgun ammo that spreads pretty far the further you shoot, just to tag at least some people, like a multitude of different people instead of just one. And then he still certainly goes after Kendrick here, though, with some pretty good one-liners like how you big steppin' with a 7-size men's on, obviously referencing Kendrick's latest record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and just straight up calling him short, which is not a lie. Then we got the way you doing splits, your pants might rip, and just the hilarious bar dedicated to Metro being like, shut up and make some drums. The way he executes that line is probably the highlight of the song for me. It's so funny. But he does a lot of name dropping, saying Kendrick's not in the same caliber as SZA, Travis Scott, and 21 Savage. He continues this Michael Jackson Prince debate, calling himself MJ here, who is the king of pop, whereas Prince is just the son to a king. And then the piano instrumentals and the snappy chorus is very hard. I do think it is a good cut. So plus 1 point for Drake on the board. It's tied right now, 0-0. Next we got
I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton.
Not Like Us is a West Coast banger that came out less than 24 hours after his last diss, not giving Drake a second to breathe. It's loud, it's bouncy, it's funny with the certified lover boy, certified pedophiles line, the trying to strike a chord, it's probably a minor line, and even it was God's plan to show you the liar. So I love the flow and the cadence he uses. It sometimes feels like I haven't heard this from him in a while, even with his Baby Keem songs in mind. So it's pretty refreshing to see, and just having him like dissing Drake and having fun with it. He wants this song to be upbeat and catchy because if I was Drake, the last thing I'd want is for people to be bumping a fire song totally just dedicated to calling him a pedophile. So even the cover is so hard. It's just doxing Drake's mansion, showing him like the whole estate because he's previously said in a bar that the embassy, which is Drake's house, will soon be raided. And then all of the red pointers are supposed to indicate the multiple sex offenders that Drake keeps around. I mean, all around, it's a fire song, plus 1 for Kendrick.
Black of the berry, the sweet of the juice. We get it, you like to put gin in your juice.
Family Matters is the longest track on this list, clocking it at almost 8 minutes. It's split into 3 parts as if this is some novel with a beginning, middle, and end, but it is pretty heat if I do say so myself. I mean, the first part almost follows the same flow as Pushups, continuing this drop pattern. Honestly, I see this one just as like Push-Ups, like older, superior, because most of the topics of discussion here are just the same, except they're just more personal and more just longer. He mentions Whitney and how one of their children might be Dave Freeze again, mentions J. Cole, which is just funny to me how he's just catching strays after dropping out of the ring. Bro made one diss on Kendrick and immediately apologized for it, taking it off streaming platforms. But Family Matters does pick up though in the second half, calling out Rick Ross for using Ozempic, which is a weight loss drug. He then uses the Good Kid Mad City van on the YouTube thumbnail cover after buying it, driving it all the way to Canada just to show it getting destroyed, which is low-key kinda crazy. He starts going after The Weeknd and A$AP Rocky, Future, and Metro again, and then he dedicates the entire third verse to Kendrick and Kendrick alone, talking about how he whined to the Tupac estate to get his song taken down. He brings up the story of how his father got robbed by Top Dog, which was prevalent in his song Duckworth. But more importantly, he accuses him of beating his fiance. It low-key gets pretty nasty, and then he talks about how they've been engaged for almost a decade now, but still hasn't had the wedding yet, which I actually didn't even know that. I thought they'd been married, but after looking into it, I guess not. But regardless, he even switches up the narrative and calls himself Prince because he's saying that Michael Jackson would try to get whiter features on songs to make himself whiter, just how Top Dog wants Kendrick to collaborate with whiter audiences with pop records to chart more. Kind of crazy. Overall, good song, plus 2 for Drake for this one.
Tattoos is up, lost too many soldiers, not the player safe.
Like that, I just wanted to quickly mention, I mean, this isn't what started the beef. This feud has been going on for some time now. They've just been taking very subtle stabs at each other over the course of some odd years, but this song has definitely been the one to shed some light on it and popularize it to like 100-fold. I'm not going to talk about this whole song because it's really just Metro and Futures, but Kendrick's verse is what we want to talk about here. So he does address the song from Drake's latest album, First Person Shooter, where J. Cole talks about like them being the big three. Like if there was a Mount Rushmore for rap, it'd be Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick, which Kendrick did not take that as a compliment at all and actually sees that as an insult, comparing him to these so-called mid artists, stooping him down to their level. He even says, "My temperament bipolar, I choose violence," before dissing both of them, which set this whole thing off. I didn't think it was even that deep. I had no idea it'd get this big, but I was jumping up and down when I heard the iconic F the big three is just big me line. He starts the Prince and Michael Jackson debate here. This is where it kind of started because in a lot of his songs, Drake just compares himself to the king of pop. And then Kendrick just really feeds into his anger here, talking about for all the dogs, saying before all your dogs getting buried, that's a K with all these nines, he gonna see a pet cemetery, which is just crazy low key. I mean, with Metro's production, it feels like a victory song. So you can't, you just can't help but get jiggy with it. +1 for K-Dot.
The very first time I shot me a Drake, the homie had told me to aim it this way.
Euphoria was the first single Kendrick put out since his rollout, Mr. Morale, which was honestly such a livid jump scare for me because I just opened YouTube not expecting him to drop a 6-minute diss on like a random Tuesday morning. It has 3 beat switches, which is what I think honestly prompted Drake to do the same on Family Matters. And it was also mentioned on his Like That verse where he says first person shooter, I hope they came with 3 switches. Euphoria starts off slow and steady. For over the song's duration, his demeanor gets more and more aggressive. Like in the middle portion, he gets his hype, just calling up shots left and right about Drake's racial insecurities, sexual insecurities, and just so much more. Like name dropping artists like Daft Punk and Sexy Red just to make some pretty entertaining one-liners. In the latter part, he even addresses all his ghostwriters and the use of AI that Drake's been using, just throwing strays at the lack of his ability to write for himself, even making fun of his Toronto accent while rapping. The whole thing is basically just saying, I don't even just dislike you, bro. I straight up hate you and your whole vibe, dog. Even hilariously saying that he shouldn't even say the N-word anymore. But, I mean, overall, this was the biggest surprise drop for me out of the whole roster this past week, and I'm glad it's out and popping. +2 for Kenny. And for the last song, obviously we gotta have
I'm sorry that man is your father. Let me be honest.
Meet the Grahams is the best diss song I've probably just ever heard in my life. I mean, what can I say that already hasn't been said before? The eerie piano instrumental, the calculated verses dedicated to each family member of Drake's, the whole thing just feels like a lyrical murder. This is low-key gotta be cyberbullying at this point. I mean, after the first 5 seconds, my jaw was on the floor till the rest of the song. I was genuinely astounded at how personal this got. If you don't already know, the first verse is dedicated to Drake's son Adonis, basically just being like, I'm sorry you were given the unfortunate circumstance that Drake is your father. He's not dissing his family or anything because he says he doesn't want to stoop to Drake's level by discrediting some decent people who literally have nothing to do with this, but he is just talking directly to them, apologizing that Drake is in their life, and they have to deal with how awful of a person he is, or in some cases not have him present in their life, which we'll get to in a moment. But the next verse is dedicated to Drake's parents, calling them out by name, Sandra and Dennis, and blaming them for all of Drake's issues. He starts going in, ripping Drake apart, saying that he hypersexualizes black women, he's a deadbeat dad, he hangs around sex offenders, and then he starts warning those around him to keep their children as far away from him as possible just to keep them safe. Even warning us, the listener, that encouraging his actions by playing his music is really just indirectly prostituting women around us. It's all really genuinely some horrifying stuff. When we get to the third verse, I was genuinely like, I didn't even know if I could handle it anymore. He directs it to a seemingly unknown secret daughter of Drake's that he's supposedly been hiding, apologizing that he's a sorry excuse for a parent and how he should have been spending time raising her instead of indulging in drugs and women. Even as a Kendrick fan so far, all of this stuff, is just talk, like I said. I don't know what to believe, so I take everything with a grain of salt because, like I said, this could just be all a lie until it's, for real confirmed. But, it still makes for a fire song. Anyways, the last verse is dedicated directly to Drake himself, saying that he shouldn't have brought in his own family into it because this is the song that he's going to get because of that. He exposes him for being a gambling addict, an alcoholic, an excessive drug user who objectifies women, and just so much more. He gets into this spiel talking about all the things Drake lied about with this extra layer on his vocals that just sends chills down my spine, and then finishes this whole thing off saying, F a rap battle, this is just a long life battle with yourself. If that doesn't say I won, then I don't know what does. +1,000. Anyways, those are my thoughts on all these new songs to have just come out. This beef has put the whole internet in a tizzy, so I just wanted to share my 2 cents since I low-key been gone and just in the school trenches for real. But again, I want to say that all of these serious allegations being directed at both parties haven't legitimately been concretely confirmed. So until then, I'm just going to have fun with the music. I hope this is just, for the clicks and for the trends, just to resurface the hip hop scene into the mainstream. But honestly, ever since Meet the Grahams, that kind of told me it's definitely not. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.